Okay, for question C, all right, we've got, irregardless of the fact, you've got two negatives sitting there. So what do you know what's going to happen with those two negatives? They're going to turn into positive. So let's just ignore that, right? An even number of negatives is going to turn into a positive. So those are going to cancel out, right? Or multiply to be a positive. The other thing you could do, okay, this little division sign, you could write it like this if you'd want, or you could just know okay, you could know that that needs to get flipped. Okay, we got fractions inside of fractions, and the way to untie that is going to be to go multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so 24 by 8. Okay, negative. 24 divided by 8 is what? 3, right? So you could simplify this bracket right off the get-go. So you know you're going to get the two negatives are going to multiply to be a positive number. So you're going to get 7 over 11 multiplied against 24. Here, maybe I'll highlight. I like doing this sometimes too. Like I'll highlight whatever the work is, and then I'll highlight the answer as well. So we know 24 divided by 8 is going to be 3. And what did we say? We said we could do something with any number, any time. You could divide by 1, right? And so that just makes my life a little easier because then I could just, now I have like fractions and fractions instead of a fraction with a whole number, right? So then you know you could do top times top and bottom. 7 times 3 should be 21 by 11. And I'm not sure if that's reducible. I think that's it. Okay, because 11's prime, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, are we okay? Okay, I'll record these two, and then we'll see how the recording for 8 goes. All right. All right, so this is a little exercise. It's just kind of a refresher in. Okay, bed mass. Okay. Now there's something with the division, you can kind of treat the top separate from the bottom. Okay, so that's like, you could put brackets around it, right? Keep it separate. So you could do top separate from the bottom and not run into any issues. Does that sound familiar? Okay, so you can do all the work in the top following bed mass, you can do all the work in the bottom following bed mass, and then you can see what happens after that. Okay, two separate entities, if you will. Okay, so if we're going to follow bed mass, let's deal with anything inside of brackets first. Okay, just in the top. So if I'm dealing with the top one, I should see 2 minus 4. So I'm going to rewrite the top. 2 minus 4 is going to be negative 2 squared plus 2. Okay, and I'll highlight that so you can see where that came from. Okay, and then divided by, you could just distribute this negative into the negative 4, and you'd get positive 4. Take away 3 times 6 would be 18. Okay, so I'm just doing a couple things at once here just so I can just minimize the number of lines that I have to write down in my solution. Okay, and because the top's separate from the bottom, we could just do that accordingly. Okay, so that I took care of the brackets, and then the E is the next thing. It tells me to take care of any exponents that exist within the question, right? Or in that whatever piece, right? So I've got the squared on the negative 2, so we're going to get 3 times negative 2 squared. This is actually quite common. What the issue will happen and we'll see it more in the quadratics unit, or even a little bit, actually funny enough, even a little bit today. What will happen is kids will go like this. They type in, I must have knocked the, see the issue with these new laptops, like the MacBooks, is they have all these USB-Cs, and then you need the dongles to do anything, and you bump them and they're awful. The issue kids will run into is they'll go like this in their calculator. What's the issue with that? Yeah. Yeah, when you hit equals on this, it's going to give you negative 4. Right? But we all know anytime you multiply two negatives together, which is why I showed you yesterday this idea of repeated multiplication when you have an exponent, we know that that's negative 2 times negative 2. When everybody sees it like that, we know two negatives is a positive. But quite often what will happen is kids forget about that when we're doing like a longer equation, which we'll see today. It's a perfect example today. And they'll write in -4, and then there's a series of operations after that, and they get wrong answers, wrong points. Okay, and we'll see that today. I'll bring that to your attention. Okay, so you ask yourself, how do I type that in my calculator? Well, if you have a scientific calculator, put this in brackets. Then we know that squared goes on to everything inside of those brackets. Okay, or just know -2 times -2 is 4. That's all it is. Okay. Sometimes it gets a little tricky. Sometimes you might need your calculator if it's like to the power of 4 or like a cubic or something, right? If there's a power of 3, you might need your calculator depending on what goes in there, right? But if it's simple enough, trust your brain, not your calculator, in case you must type it and then you start getting wrong points and things, okay? So we're going to get 3 times -2 squared would be 4 plus 2 over, we can do the bottom, 4 minus 18 would be -12. 14, sorry. Okay. Any issues so far? Okay, so now you check your bed mass. You've done the exponents. I guess you're going to check for any division in the top, right? Remember, I'm still treating these as 2 separate entities, so I don't see any division in the top. So I'm going to do the multiplication. So I'm going to get 3 times 4 would be 12 plus 2 by -14. Oops, missed a number. So we get 14 over -14, -1. Okay. I guess the trick with that is just making sure you treat these 2 separate. Okay. Not the big long division line. You know, you get 2 separate entities there. Okay. Does anybody have any questions with that before I jump on to the next one? Okay, and I recorded that all up